Hello everyone, welcome on the Stress Free Mom TV. I'm today with the beautiful Joanne. Hello Joanne.
Hello everyone, how are you today?
So we're gonna go through a mom interview, and so I'm Magali Gendre, I'm a creatrix transformologist and intuitive guide, and I'm hosting a Stress Free Mom TV. So Joanne, tell us about yourself. Who are you?
So I am mum of three, a 21, a 4-year-old, a nearly 5-year-old, and a nearly 2-year-old little girl. Teacher by trade, so have studied Bachelor of Education, married, and have a passion, I suppose, for exercise and fitness. And yeah, that's kind of a summary of my own individual sense.
So what are you passionate about? So you mentioned fitness.
Yes. So
anything?
I'll start back. I suppose I've always been interested in keeping fit and healthy for myself, like not to be a particular size or shape. It's just for my own health aspects. And post baby number 2, so my nearly 5-year-old, I had a particularly bad postnatal period where I ended up suffering quite significantly from postnatal anxiety as well as postnatal depression. As a result of suffering from both of those, I ended up in a mum and bub unit attached to the King Edward Memorial Hospital in Western Australia. I had a stay there of nearly about 2 weeks. Where they kind of provided some interventions, in terms of how to cope, how to deal, as well as they convinced me to go on some antidepressants, which I was very against at that particular time, just because I'd had an experience with antidepressants, you know, with my firstborn, and I saw the sort of flow-on effects of the medication to him because I was breastfeeding. So that's why I was really against it the second time around. I was like, no, I can see what this does. However, medication as well as the whole health industry has obviously changed in those 20 years between both, and they managed to produce some really good facts in terms of the amount that was going through the breast milk and, you know, the sort of flow-on effects. So I was convinced medically to be sort of to go on to these antidepressants, and also that helped me to kind of just lift out through the fog that I was really in at that particular time. Probably post, let me say, so about 6 weeks, so that was when my son was about 9-10 months old is when that kind of period where I got admitted, etc., happened. When he was about 6 weeks old, I went back into running because obviously I wasn't having a great time, and that was kind of my release, and was you know, it sort of helped me get through a few things at that particular time. And I was sitting in the back seat of the car at that you know, in that early few months, and sort of thought, you know, interchanging nursing bras for sports crops, and I sat there and thought, gee, you know, like, to be able to access this whole exercise thing for mums during pregnancy and then postnatal, you've got so many, like, you know, barriers that come up in front, and one being the physical clothing side of things. And I thought, gee, mums deserve so much more than this, you know, especially if they want to be able to get back into doing some sort of exercise for their own mental health or whatever, you know, just to have that little bit of break, etc., and do something for them. And I thought mums deserve something so much better. So that, I suppose, planted the seed for what I kind of then post my stay at the mum and bub unit. I kind of then, so that was December when I was at the mum and bub unit, and then it was about March, April the following year, so only about 4 months down the track is when I first thought, nah, I'm going to put tooth and grind into this. And I created my business name, and started just sketching products and, like, you know, putting images from my head, thinking, right, what do we want? You know, what would make it something that is stylish but also is functional for mum. So I created my first collection, which had 4 pieces in it, 2 crops, 1 pair of pants, and a nursing singlet, and launched that in October of that year. So that was April to October of finding creating patterns, finding fabric, finding a manufacturer, creating that whole back-end business side with website, everything. So not a huge amount of time.
That's an awesome idea, you know, because yeah, you're exactly right. There's something missing there for moms with a young baby to be able to go back to sports if they wanted to.
And the other thing is as well is the products that I've kind of tried to design, you can wear during the pregnancy as well as postpartum. So I even have mums 3 years down the track still wearing the same leggings they wore during their pregnancy, which they can get away with. And they love them because they sit up just that little bit higher. And when you're doing your exercise, you don't have all your bits like coming out.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So obviously things have, in that space, there has been a few more people that have come on the board, especially some of the bigger fitness brands since I first started are now bringing out a, you know, pregnancy or a nursing, a breastfeeding, like accessible top or like pads, etc. But I suppose one of the things that we kind of still pride myself on is everything has been designed by myself. And I keep evolving and changing, and it's been awesome. So, yeah.
So thank you for that sharing about how you come across with your business. I suppose the next question was about to tell us about a moment where you did not cope as a mom. So I suppose you got that episode of post-natal depression.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, I suppose like the whole mum life, I suppose, is extremely difficult. For me, I suppose I had a baby like 16 years before I had my second one. So my life had changed again. I started gaining that independence, and I'd started having, you know, I was able to go, let's say, for instance, to the gym whenever I wanted. And I had a little bit more freedom again, as mums do when your children start to grow up and have a little bit more independence of themselves. And it was when I literally walked through those hospital doors. So we were going home. So walked through those doors is when reality really hit for me. And then it was just my son, who's nearly 5, had severe reflux as well as tongue tie, as well as, reflux and colic as well. So he screamed 24/7. We also, it was an undiagnosed tongue tie. So for 4 months, I persisted breastfeeding. And the only reason why I think why he continued to thrive at that particular time was because I was using nipple shields. So I was using the nipple shields, which then in turn helped him to suckle it, provided that attachment, which he wouldn't have been able to do without it. And it was at that 4-month period I thought, no, I've got to get rid of these nipple shields because he's become so dependent on them. Like I can't feed without them. So, you know, sitting there in a cafe and he wants a feed and it's not simple as lift up the shirt and put him on. I've got to get the nipple shield out of the container, put that on. It's all just a bit of an awkward process. So I thought, no, I've got to get rid of it. And, when I took away the nipple shields, he started losing dramatic amounts of weight because he wasn't getting, he wasn't attaching correctly. And so we had huge problems. Took him to a lactation consultant, and that's when his tongue tie was diagnosed at that particular point in time. They snipped the tongue tie and it helped. We continued breastfeeding for another 12 months.
Wow. So when you reflect over that period of time, what are the learnings you like to share with us?
To not be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
I think one of my not failings, because I don't like to use the F word very often. It's not always good to use the F word. However, one of the things which I wasn't so proud of is the fact that my husband kept saying to me, Jo, you need to go and get some help. You're not okay. You're crying every single day. You're not coping with basic tasks of, housework, etc. You need to go and get some help. And when eventually I did say, yes, okay, I'll go and get some help, and got convinced to go, they wanted to meet me that day. So that's how sort of severe I was by that particular point in time. It was a slow, I suppose, from the time of leaving the hospital to when I eventually went into the mum and bub unit, it was a gradual decline over that, probably 10-month period. But I suppose my message is, if you aren't feeling okay, it's nothing to be ashamed of. There are lots of mums who go through this. I suppose, as well as the fact that I kind of turned my not so great experience around and tried to make it into a positive thing to help other mums. So I suppose the message is that just because you aren't having a great time now doesn't mean that you can't turn it around and make something for yourself as a result of it. So I had no business, no design experience. I'm, as I said, a primary teacher by trade, but that didn't stop me, because I had a passion that I really wanted to help mums. And I suppose with that passion, I've been able to turn it into a business.
Wow, that is very inspiring, what you've done. And so what are your 3 tips to be a stress-free mom?
Mindfulness is probably one. So the first tip would be take some time every Monday on my sort of my Instagram page. I kind of share Mindfulness Monday. So something in terms of whether it be just, I think last week it was, watch your kids play. Watch your kids play for 10 or 15 minutes. So block out everything else and look at the simplicity of them. And, so just techniques which you can do. Maybe go down the park and lie underneath a tree and really focus on the leaves blowing, those sorts of things, because it's very important as a mum. You get so clouded in your head, you get so, busy. Yeah. Just taking that time. So in terms of mindfulness, but also self-care. So doing some exercise, some movement, etc., is something for you. You give so much of ourselves to our children, to our partners, and just having that, maybe even half an hour, it doesn't have to be an expensive workout like going to a big gym or anything. You do stuff at home, but at least you're doing something for you. So that would be probably my second tip. And then my third tip is know that tomorrow is always a new day.
Yeah, like that one too.
So, yeah, I like the fact from having a really crappy day, or if the kids are really mental, I know that I'm going to sleep some point that day, and then I can wake up with a fresh head, fresh perspective tomorrow, and it will be all beside us. So, because we can get so caught up in it.
That's so true. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Joanne. If people like to know a little bit more about what you do, where can they find you?
So we have an Instagram page, which is MumActive, MUMMACTIV. We also have Facebook page, which is the same, MUMMACTIV, but then with the number 1 behind it. And then on our website, we obviously have the blogs, which we have like exercises, ways that you can incorporate exercise at home, my stories from my postnatal period at mumactive.com as well.
Yeah, great. I will be putting everyone the link just above the video in the post for you to find. Thanks again. And everyone, if you like to join the Stress Free Mum community, you're welcome to do so. And there is also a private Facebook group called Stress Free Mum Support Group. So this is a space for mum to share their up and down, make new connection, and support each other in a positive manner without judgment. So you're also welcome to join. I will be putting the link just above. Well, this is it, I guess.
Thank you.
I wish you all an amazing day. Thank you, Joanne, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.